Two experts in ICF.
Yeah.
Decades of experience. One podcast.
Yeah.
Two hosts with a lot to say.
Look, I cannot sit through a struggle. I gotta get up and hustle. I gotta push through the pain, cause really that's how you build muscle.
Welcome to the Build with ICF podcast with your hosts, Trevor Brown and Heather Herring Brown. Yep, they're a package deal. With over 20 years of ICF installation experience, Trevor can throw down some expertise on sales, marketing, and training. On the other side of the table sits Heather, aka the girl boss, and she's earned the title as the owner of an award-winning ICF construction company, a drafting and design company specializing in ICF. And the numbers? With a master's in accounting, she does that too. Sleeves up, boots on. This is the Build with ICF podcast.
I don't want nothing for free. I'm here to work. Been through the dirt. I've been through the dirt, yeah.
I feel like we've been in the dirt for the last month.
Yeah, 100% in the dirt, in the mud, and in the dirt.
Gosh. We finally got rain and crazy weather, and yeah, it's just been crazy.
It's that time of year. I guess if anything, I apologize for our long hiatus between episodes here, but I guess this gives us some legitimacy that we're not just podcasters. We actually have businesses to run and ICF to stack and mud to pour and all kinds of stuff that has been
waterproofing to install and plans to draw.
Unfortunately, it takes precedence because it pays the bills and this costs us money. So we have to go with the stuff that pays us money so we can afford to do the podcast. So we do apologize. We've had some people reach out, make sure we're okay. We are fine. Everything's good. We just have been very, very busy. It's been awesome. We've actually had not only our own busyness going on, but I've had a lot of contact and more, it seems like every week, more and more contact from listeners. Which, like I said, I feel free to screen your calls or not take them. So feel free to just get hold of me if you need to, or reach out to me via email. Do apologize for any slow responses to you guys. I have been trying to stay on top of all that a lot. But anyway.
But the good news is
deal with this.
Because our build season is so short, like we try to get everything dried in by Halloween.
Yeah.
Then we kind of have some off time and our winter time is a little bit slower. But we'll figure it out. So.
Yeah. So I think we got some good stuff going on, and it's, I mean, guest wise, it's been hard to get people too, because we just can't align our schedule with people, and everybody's busy, which is good. That's a good sign. That's why we're in this industry. That's why we love ICF. Is it's growing like crazy, and people are going absolutely nuts with it. So a lot of the guys that we have lined up for guests are too busy to get on too, and have said, well, let's do it in the winter. So I think we're going to have some really good ones coming up this winter, this fall. I know there's listeners all over the place, then they don't understand what snow is like, but we do have the possibility of snow here in the next 30 days. So we're all trying to get our stuff done and dried in before then. So anyway, so today's episode, we're back to another listener questions. We're trying to keep up on the listener questions again. Apologies if you sent stuff in that we're just now getting to, but I think we're going to get most of the questions answered now that have been on the list. So anyways, we'll jump right into listener questions. These are some of the ones that have come up that have been pretty good. Again, same disclaimer I always give. This is my opinion. This is how we do it. Doesn't mean it's right. There's a lot of different people do things differently, but we're happy to answer the way we do these things. So First question we got is regarding the ICF concrete mix. Super important. It's very much something that can make your pour go very poorly or go, very well. So depending upon the mix, and it's kind of a moving target. And this is a little bit of a hard question to answer because, we recently had a bad mix. We switched companies to, try a different company. The schedules didn't line up. And anyways, we went with a different company than we usually do. And so and it was just a bad concrete mix, and we tried to tell them everything we could. One of the issues that you have sometimes is that the languages don't match up. So like what I call a normal, I just call in and order a 3/4 pea gravel, 6 bag, 3,000 PSI mix, and most of the guys have that mix, and they just go, oh, okay, ICF mix. Some of them even just call it an ICF mix, which if you get that, that's awesome. And we hear more and more and more of that. We had an issue where the guy was like, okay, he wanted all the particulars of exactly what we wanted in it and how we wanted it, and we were basically making a formula out of it, and it didn't work. But So we try to, get in and let people know kind of what our basic mix is that we use. I usually order, it's, a pea gravel or 1/2 inch minus. I really like it if they have, some places have what they call a 1/2 inch minus, which is the difference between that and a pea gravel is just that pea gravel's round rock and a 1/2 inch minus is usually considered chunks of rock, basically, and I'm not an engineer, but I've been told by engineers that, anytime you add that aggregate that has edges to it and square makes it more strong, or makes it more stronger. That's good. Great English. It's also an English lesson today. It makes it stronger by having that aggregate versus a round rock in it. So go ahead, feel free to debate that with me, but I know that's what I've been told. So we do try to do like that. I used to just run a regular 3/4, when we used to have more cement, less fly ash, different mixtures of concrete. You could flow a 3/4 mix at a 6 or 7 slump through your ICF really well. What we've seen change over the years is we've seen engineering change to where we have, as I like to call them, CYA engineers that come in and they just put tons of rebar and stuff, and that causes hangups, which means the bigger aggregate gets hung up in there, which is another benefit to having the rounder rock, because the rounder rock will kind of bounce down through there a little bit better, have flow a little bit better. So anyways, we usually will order a pea gravel or 1/2 inch minus mix, usually 6-bag. This last company told me that they wouldn't do a 6-bag. They would only do a 7-bag because that's what goes through the pump. I talked to the pump guy. The pump guy disagreed. So
there's lots of disagreements on this last one. And it went. We got poured. It just was not our favorite.
No. And we made it work, but it definitely added hours to the pour that we didn't need to add. But basically I actually remember we'd start out like 5-bag back in the day, and then it went to 6-bag, and then it goes 7-bag. And usually it's because they get a higher price. And I'm not trying to say they gouge anybody, but it's pretty easy to do. I would say, well, no, you got to need a 7-bag.
Well, I think a lot of times, and maybe up here, maybe why they were pushing you for that one is they may not have had the other materials available. I don't know.
Yeah, I do know we deal shortages up here, but so usually like a 6-bag, and then we usually order it with it. We're going to want it poured at about a 6 or 7 slump. 6 if if the gravel's running good. If it's a good mix, then usually we're running it at a 6 slump. If I have a lot of windows and stuff, I usually will jump it up to a 7 because I just don't want to have to get down and pour under windows, because most everybody knows what it's like to have have it hang up and not get under the windows. Even vibrating it down in, sometimes it won't go all the way under the window. So you have to. That's why we leave access points on the bottom part of the window buck so we can shoot under there if we need to. But ideally, if we can get the right perfect mix, it's going to flow under there with a little bit of vibration. It's going to drop right in under the windows. But that's basically what we order. So one of the questions I got from a listener was about plasticizers.
Yes.
And additives. I got guys that just swear by them. I would say I usually just let my concrete guy tell me if we need something, especially when we're getting later in the season, cold weather, different things. If we need calcium or different things. I'm not very technical when it comes to the concrete stuff. I usually, I have a hard time knowing what I know, let alone knowing what the concrete guy knows or the engineer knows or, other stuff. I kind of I'm pretty good at delegating that to people. I'm not a micromanager, so I like to just let my concrete guy tell me what I need. We have used, I recently did a pour. I was just consulting on the pour, but I was there for the pour day, and we were pouring with a plasticizer mix that was phenomenal. I mean, it was just ran perfectly. I mean, it was, I actually ran the vibrator. I wasn't pumping. I was, letting the other guys pump, and I was running the vibrator, and it was, barely dropping. It was almost self-consolidating. It was pretty impressive. So I know they had a really good mix with a plasticizer in it. We put plasticizer in this last job we had, and it did not do as well. So I tend to lean towards a natural, what I would call a natural water mix that does not have additives in it. If I have the right, the right mix.
Yeah. And the temperatures are working. There's a lot of things that come into play. Because I remember.
How far are you traveling? How far is it in the truck?
Exactly. Because we've had jobs that are 2 hours from the plant. And so we have to have additional additives in order to,
or you're going to have bubble gum when it gets there. So you've got to do some things there. But like, basically I guess the best answer is to work directly with companies that know what they're doing. Try to have that discussion with them, find out what they're gonna, what they suggest. Preferably, you're hoping what happens is when you talk to your ready mix company, they're like, oh yeah, this is what we pour for all the ICF guys. Usually that means they've got something that works, because and I even go so far as to, I try to be friendly with all my competition. I mean, I'm buddies with most of them. So we share installers, we share product with each other. I sell stuff to them. They, we buy stuff from them. So I'm usually good about calling them like, hey, did you run with, XYZ company? Did you like their ICF mix? And they say, no, they call it an ICF mix. It's not. Or yeah, we've been running that on the last 3 jobs and it works great. Get some referrals. We say that about everything.
And it's not just, I don't think you necessarily have to go with just ICF referrals. Like if you're doing it and you're new to your area and you call around and you're just checking in with concrete companies, I would also call some of your foundation guys, your slab and footing guys.
Same difference, yeah.
And talk to them about who they use for their concrete, who would they recommend and why, and just get those referrals and then call and just have that open conversation with them. And, I'm pouring in ICF. This is what I'm doing. It's really not that different than pouring in the forms for the basement. I mean, it's the same thing. We're just a form that stays in place.
100%, yeah.
So guys that are pouring traditional basements using the big forms, they've got rebar in those too. So they're going to have some of the similar issues. So they should have kind of some mixes and know.
Yeah. And I think it's a little different just because we do have the added webs in there, which make ours a little bit different. And that's why it does hang up a little more and why we usually go with a little different mix than what they have. But at least it's going to give you an idea. But, ask them what they're doing, and like I said, just kind of talking to the ready mix company, just because they're available and cheaper, those are usually 2 things that doesn't mean they're the best. Like anything, like an ICF installer, like a general contractor. Quick and easy and cheap is usually not the best guy on the market. So just keep that in mind too. You kind of get what you pay for with this a lot. It's all fairly universal with the pricing. I do believe you have to be cautious of your ready mix salesman adding additive. I mean, he's a commission salesman. If he adds additives and it's $10, $15, $20 a yard add-ons to each thing, he's making more money. So keep that in aware. I don't mean to upset any of my concrete sales listener guys, but that is a thing. So just be aware of it. Just make sure stand your ground on what you need to pour. But anyways, I think that pretty much says, the other thing that I just would throw in with that would be talking to your pump guy and seeing it, make sure he's got a reducer, making sure he knows how to do ICF. If he's got a flex trimmy, that would be great. Basically, it's just a flexible hose that goes on the end of the pipe so that you can kind of pinch it off and aim it a little bit better. I prefer to use those. I do know that there's some hesitancy for them to give that out to just anybody because it's a liability. You can mess up the pump easily, like if it's pumping and you just pinch the thing off without telling them, and it can back up the pump and hurt it, injure it, break it. So if you see if they've got that available to you, if nothing else, a lot of times they can trim it down to like a 3-inch. Trimmy is great. Even a 4-inch is better than the 6-inch. So yeah, just having a trimmy on there that's going to narrow it down to get it in the cavity easier is better. So that's probably.
Well, and I guess another thing on that note too with the pumps is, when you're calling to schedule your pump guy, you could talk to them about the concrete, like we were saying, but also asking them, when you're scheduling your pump, sometimes you need a bigger pump versus a smaller pump. They're going to ask you the reach and all that kind of stuff.
Know your distance on the farthest point so they don't come out and do that. They're usually pretty good about asking that. And if you have a small pump company, that doesn't have just a bazillion trucks. One of the companies we use a lot is got a ton of trucks, and each guy may not know, but smaller company we've called them and been like, hey, if you have any luck with this company, and they're like, yeah, they usually run short on their mud or whatever, so we add a couple yards, whatever. I mean, they have intel too because they're seeing concrete every single day. So I think that pretty much answers everything about the concrete.
Okay.
We had another call recently, a listener, somebody that is purchased an existing ICF house.
Yeah. There's been a couple of these on the market recently.
We've seen them.
Part finished.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, not everybody knows exactly what they're doing. Not everybody's, got their stuff together, and sometimes they end up not being able to complete the job. Homeowners run out of money, whatever it is. We never know the circumstances, but there has been a few half-built or three-quarter-built ICF jobs come on the market. And so we've had some calls about this, and I talked with a gentleman about this, asking kind of simply, what do I do? I bought this. It was a walkout basement. It's built out of, XYZ, brand of ICF. how do I do this? What do I do to move forward? Do I have to use that same company? Do I need to use, how do I do it? So I guess generically speaking, it's not the easiest thing in the world. We've done it. We've done them. It's not my favorite job to do as far as something that we're going to try to tackle. If I can do a new build versus an old build like that, I would rather do the new build, but it's feasible. If you get that option to do it, you really got to look at it. The first thing I tell people is, check it for level, square, and straight. Is it square? Is it straight? Is it level? Are you coming into something that's going to have to take a lot of adjustment? Are you 6 inches out of square? Are you, all these different things? That's your first thing you need to look at. I don't get super concerned with what brand it is or if we can cross over. A lot of times what we're going to do anyways, and I would say 9 times out of 10, we end up knocking the nubs off of something if it's been there a while anyways, because there's a few things that can happen. One, it gets a lot of junk in the nubs, which means they're not going to connect up as much. The other thing is if you take a block that's been sitting out in the especially heat, cold, weather, blah, 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 for a year, they can shrink. It's an inch, so that 48-inch block may now be 47 at the top, where it's not being held by the concrete, which is where your nubs are locking in. So sometimes you're trying to put a 48-inch block on the top of a 47-inch block. It's not going to fit.
Yeah.
I'm surprised how much they'll stretch, to be honest. I've had some that were a half inch off and I click them on and they kind of pull them out, they kind of straighten it out.
I think more often than not, though, there's crap down in the nubs and you can't get the concrete out, or it's just not worth your time to go through and try and do that, or they're broke off. There's just they're inconsistent. And
so you gotta look at your time is what what is it worth to go and like cut the nubs off and try to set it right on top, like foam to foam, and straighten it out. A lot of times what we do and what is usually a little bit faster, and it's not horrible, is basically you set 2 courses on top of on the old course, 2 new courses of new on top of the old, and then what you do is you level it just like you were on a footer. You treat it like a footer. You basically treat it like a really crappy footer, like is what you're looking at. You're really looking at it like, okay, this is going to be an uneven footer. So then what we do is we basically go around the whole outside and inside, whatever. We're going to do both, but pick a side, and you're going to go around and basically take 1 to 2 foot scab board. Usually 1 foot works great. So we rip usually plywood down to a 1 footer, and then we basically go around and we level it, and you basically screw it in to the existing course, and then you pull up and laser level those 2 courses of new, and then screw those into and you're basically just creating what we call scab boards or bracing or patching. Everybody has a different term for it, but basically we're basically just going to wrap a belly band around the whole connection point between. So that way, if we got to lift it up 2 inches, even it's fine. It's
a form board.
It's a form board. We're just going to leave it there, and then we're gonna take that and we're gonna set it. So we're gonna get those 2 courses back to level, square, and whatever. And sometimes, like I said, even if you're out of square, you can still do that. You're not gonna be able to, like I said, carry the because you're not going to be able to flush it to the one below. So you may have to do some extra bracing with 2x material or something. But it's not the end of the world. Let's put it that way. No. It's not a deal breaker. It's not the ideal situation, and it's going to take more time. But you can go on to an old existing, or people. It may not even be like you bought an old existing. You may just run out of time. We've had that happen. We had that happen on a job last year where it just started snowing before we could get the second.
Yeah.
The second story on. So we had to cover it up and come back the next year. And so it makes for more work, but it was fine.
Yeah. On that one, we were ready to go. We couldn't get the concrete in there. They wouldn't come because we were 2 hours from their plant.
2 hours, and it was a steep road in, and so they didn't want to come in the snow. So we would have done it in the snow, but they didn't.
But what we did to prepare for that is we actually went in, because when you pour your basement and you're going to do a second story on that, typically where your floor is where you're going to transition from your 8-inch to your 6-inch. And so you'll pour halfway up into that last block so that you can roll your floor. So that's what happened on this one. We had poured up into that halfway up into that block. They rolled the floor and did all the framing for the main level. And then we actually went in and we put another course on and we covered everything for the winter. Because we were there, we had it all there to do. It still had a little bit of shrinkage when you went back to
But we were
stack
able
it.
to make the contact
But
on almost
yes,
all of it.
Yeah.
And only a
But
few spots we didn't make contact. We had to cut nubs off, but yeah, we were able to contact a lot of that. But it was because we prepared it for the winter, and
Yes.
we knew we covered it. We made sure it was fine. But yeah, so no, not end of the world. I mean, if you get an opportunity to work on that, or say your project has to go through a winter, has to sit there for a while for whatever reason, there's definitely options on how to do that. So don't panic. We just reset and move on up the wall. So, which leads us to our next question is, how do you fix crooked walls? Like, what if the wall is crooked? What if it is out, and say you're trying to go up? Well, re-straighten that second, the next floor that you're putting on. And then there's ways to adjust those to straighten those walls out. And what your hope is if it's within about a, give or take the brand, a half inch or whatever you have of foam on top of the nub, whether that be a quarter or half or whatever it is, the windlock.com sells a really cool rasp, large cheese grater, I like to call it, is what it looks like, with a handle. And you can rasp the foam off and get a lot of that the inconsistencies down through the foam. We've had to go so far as to actually cut into webs to get straighten something out. And it's completely doable. It's not fun. Again, it's not the best situation, but it can be resurrected. It's not like you got to crash the whole thing to the ground and start over. So, going in there and just rasping away. And then the other thing is on the inside is shimming. So you're going to do some shimming. We had a job recently. I mean, we've been doing this for 24 years. We still have mistakes and things that happen on our jobs. We're not perfect. We had, bad situations with weather and different things that caused the wall to just get out of control. It was a 100-degree day. The concrete started setting up before we could get things straight. We had a job did not go as planned, right? It happens. I mean, we just take ownership of it and you fix it. So, we ended up going back in and we had a couple spots in the wall where we had to fur some things out to get it back to level. And basically what you do is you pull string lines or shoot lasers, whatever you got. We kind of went old school on this and did the string line. You pull string lines on both walls and you see where you've got gaps and where it straightens out to. And we basically sat there with a table saw and we ripped 2x material down and just into strips and door shims in some places where it wasn't as far. And we basically shimmed out all of our webs so that we could just go back in there and we could side and sheetrock over top of that. And it disappears. No one has to know, after the fact that's that wall was out because you shimmed it and it's just a little thicker. You might have some areas that are thicker than others on that wall, but it took us a lot more time. It's not what you want to do. It definitely reminds you why you take your time and do things, or call off the pour if it's a bad weather day. Like in that situation, we should have just called off the pour and not tried to pour through it. So it can be fixed.
Yes, but keep in mind that happens in traditional basements where they have the wood forms.
100%.
It happens.
Happens in stick frame. It happens in steel stud.
Yeah.
It happened. I mean, it just happens. I mean, don't make it into a ICF problem.
Correct.
It's
That's
not
what I
an
was going to
ICF problem. So we have different ways of fixing it than what other places do. But I mean, we've seen, like I said, I've seen plenty of traditionally poured basement walls that were out 2 inches that had to be furred out with a, which you usually fur out anyways to put your sheetrock on, but they were, using a 2x2 on one end and a 2x4 on the other end to get the wall back straight. So, I mean, it happens. I mean, so again, just like the previous question, don't panic. It's fixable. We just have to do things a little bit differently, and it's going to take you a little bit more time, but basically just shimming out and straightening that wall back out. It's structurally sound. You're not an issue of anything being a problem that way. So just fur it out so that you can get your sheetrock and your siding on and bring it out to where it needs to be, and you're good to go. So again, don't panic. Sometimes it happens, but we try to obviously we want everything to be perfect all the time, but that's not the way my world works. I wish. Lastly, last question we got to get to is, can you put an ICF foundation under existing houses? So either replacing one, or say you're doing a basement or something.
Oh, replacing a current foundation that's bad, or
bad foundation. I mean, like we just actually, it was funny this weekend. We were at a resort, eating lunch there, and we said we were doing concrete and blah blah blah. We talked about they asked what we did. We told them. They're like, "Oh, could you guys redo the foundations on our A-frames out here?" And they had a bunch of old, like 70s or 60s A-frames, and they were all on cinder block foundations, and they're all going to crap. So they're asking, can you come in and fix it? And we're like, yeah, we could actually. And it's, so yeah, we do a lot of that. I did years and years ago. I worked with a gentleman in town he was going through a historic district, just jacking houses and putting basements under them because they had just 4 or 5 foot foundation. A lot of them had really deep crawl spaces, so they only had to go a few more feet to get a basement in. So he would basically go and they jack the house up, which is not something I suggest anybody just goes and does.
Well, they
Find a
can.
professional.
Yeah. You have
There's
to have
a company that does it. So there's house movers out there that can do it. That's what I suggest is you go and have a house mover do it. They've got the correct equipment to do it. But you lift the house up, they crib it, and then they set it on wood cribs, and then we go back in and we put a basement under it.
Yeah. Which is a little kind of freaky when
It's really sketchy.
You're working under this structure that the whole house is above you. So like the whole Wizard of Oz thing where the house falls on you type thing.
And it creaks and it makes noises.
Yeah. But
and dust falls out.
But we have seen that a lot. We've worked with a lot of contractors that do that. In fact, Gavin was on one of those jobs just a couple of years ago where they lifted a house up and the people wanted to not only correct, had kind of an old crumbling foundation because it was a 1900s house, early 1900s in the North End. And so you lift the house up, you take out what's underneath it, fix it. They dug down a little bit further so that they could actually have a full height, 8-foot height basement versus a 6-foot height basement that doesn't qualify as living space when it's only 6 feet.
Well, and I think they added an addition on that too, right? They came out and made it even bigger and then went up from there. So yeah, I mean, we've done a lot of different, there's a lot of options of that.
Yeah.
And I think if there's any, installers or distributors, dealers listening, thinking about this, it's a good business opportunity because I think with the high interest rates and different things and the battles we have in front of us as far as new construction goes, you're going to see a real spike in remodel. And I think that getting ICF into remodel is another niche that, is something that we're not tapping into very well. So getting into those remodeler groups and different foundation and basement guys saying, hey, if you get any calls for this is way easier sticking 4-foot by 16 inch or a 4-foot by 12 inch block of styrofoam under the house than trying to haul these big boards in there and then go back and peel them and get them out from under a house. So, I mean, it's way more convenient to handle and to build under the house. And then you're, again, eliminating all the stuff, the fur out and all the stuff that you have to do with that.
Well, and on a lot of these, when they're doing that, they're lifting the house up. There's not a ton of room on the outside of it for them to be able to go around and actually remove forms or get in there safely, with different requirements for how much room you have to have. So the blocks actually, will alleviate that and make it to where it's doable, where they can, go in and do that basement wall.
Well, and you use the buzzword there, safety and in and out quick. So, that's actually a good sales pitch to these concrete guys that are under there or these house. I'd contact places that, house movers. There's house movers out there. Look them up, Google them in your area. Or look them up in the phone book, as we used to say. I don't think they have those. But we would go, look those guys up, call them, call your foundation and basement guys, and get into your remodeler association. So there's, we talk about the National Association of Home Builders. We're very active in that, but we also have done a lot of work with NARI, which is the National Association of Remodel.
I don't know what
Anyways.
It is NARI, but I don't
That
know.
might be Idaho. That might be National Association of Remodels or Idaho. Anyways, maybe that's why it's NARI. But anyways, there's remodeler associations and stuff like that. You can set your Google AdWords to reach out to those people and stuff. I think that's a really good opportunity that people probably are not tapping into is for ICF guys. So if you're looking for another avenue to talk to, on that note, this does not have anything to do with that, but also we're coming into winter. Great time to be hitting up all the standard foundation and basement guys about ICF because they're going to have to if you're in a cold climate, you're going to have to they're either going to stop working or they're going to have to start blanketing or they're going to have to insulate. They're going to have a lot of work to do to continue to pour in cold weather. ICF can be pouring right through the winter. So a lot of these guys will switch to ICF and not use their form boards during the winter. They put their form boards away, use ICF during the winter, and your hopes would be that they would stick with it in the spring. But I have a lot of guys that I used to sell to just in the winter, and then they would go back to their form boards. But even for foundation walls and stuff, they're like, yeah, it's just easier because it keeps it insulated, and I can pour in cold temperatures, and it keeps my guys working longer. So another little business tip there on how to sell more block in the wintertime is to reach out to those guys and let them know you have insulated forms that they don't currently use. So go to your standard guys and reach out to them about that, but also talk to them about the remodel side of things. I think there's a lot of business to be had under existing houses. So anyway, kind of an interesting question that came up. So that knocks out all our listener questions right there. We're caught up now with everything that's been sent in to me.
All right. So that means you need to send us some more questions, people. So we have some for upcoming episodes.
Please do. Yeah. The other little tag I'm going to get in there is ICF Builder Awards. Yeah. You've got about another month to get those in right now. So if you've got anything that you want to submit for a Builder Award, I highly suggest it. I'm sitting here looking at a ICF Builder Award from 2018 that Heather won with the Toronto, that was best small residential at the Builder Show, or at the World of Concrete. So super cool, really fun event to go to, really fun to be involved in, and be in a room with hundreds of ICF people, and to get on stage and be recognized is pretty awesome. So if you guys can, want to submit to that, you can go to icfbuildermag.com and look into that if you're not already getting their emails. Subscribe so you can get their emails. But they're looking for submissions right now. Talk to your block manufacturer too. If you've got your rep for your block manufacturer, most of the reps are all wanting to get those submissions done. A lot of the block companies will help submit that for you. So a lot of cool stuff out there if you want to, get your project maybe submitted for an award.
Yeah.
Kind of cool.
And that awards will be on, so World of Concrete is January 21st through the 24th, but I think it does go the Friday, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's done.
I think so.
So the 21st through the 24th of January, 2025. Wow. It seems weird saying that already. But the award show would be Wednesday night, the 22nd. Is when that award show will be. And if you're thinking about doing ICF, you're looking at doing this and looking at waterproofing, and you're looking at everything ICF, the World of Concrete really is a good place to go and see all the different manufacturers, all the different products. We'll be there walking around. I'm sure we'll be recording again from the floor. Yeah. Like we did last year. So plan now to be able to go, because it really is a great show. And then it's free admission into the awards thing as well. It's just limited, so you have to get tickets when you get there to the event.
Yeah, and hit us up for that too. I mean, we write articles for the Builder magazine and work closely with those guys. They're very, very great awesome people. So hit us up on that too if you need any help getting set up on that, or tickets or anything. We're happy to facilitate that. So but yeah, let's get some more questions into us. Any suggestions of people? We've had some really good suggestions. I am working on pretty much every suggestion that has come in. I've been reaching out to companies. Kind of funny. I've had some obscure companies come in, and I've reached out to them, and some of them have not been domestic. Let's say they're not in the United States, and they're been a little hard to make contact with, or even feel like if I could communicate with them correctly. So anyways, but we've definitely are looking for suggestions. If people see cool things that they want to hear about, different products that they're questioning about, I'm happy to get the people or reps from that company on here to talk about it. So please shoot us those leads. If anybody that you want, your wish list of people you'd like to hear on here as guests, we're going to continue to do that. Socials. At Build with ICF on all the socials. Hit us up on Instagram. We have been doing a very, very poor job of posting.
Well, here, how about this? I'll fire you from the Instagram today, but I'm going to rehire you tomorrow, and you can start all over.
Yeah, because I got to get on that, because that is, again, busy, things that pay. Yep. Got to do those first. So I apologize, because I am the worst about telling people to be active on social media, and then I have not been. So admittedly, I am bad. Sorry.
You can take pictures today have the boys take pictures of the deliveries. So
yeah, I've got content. I just got to get it on. That's the problem. I've got tons. I've got days and months and years of content. I just don't have the time to put on. Anyways, I will make the time. I promise. I'm going to get that on there. So we'll get that on there. Hit us up at info@buildwithicf.com. Kind of an exciting thing too. I'll tease. We have new shirts coming out.
Oh, yes.
So that's going to be cool. I think we're going to run some promos for that. I think I was thinking about it. I haven't even told you, but I was thinking what we do is maybe like we'll take every, 2 weeks or every month, we'll send out shirts to people that post and tag us in their Instagram posts, right? If you tag, we'll come up with a hashtag. Maybe if you just tag
Do a contest, yes.
and do a contest at Build with ICF, tag us in your post or tag us, repost or tag about the podcast and tag the, at Build with ICF, hashtag Build with ICF podcast. And we'll start compiling a list of people that we see doing that on Instagram or social media. And what we'll do is we've got a shirt. One, my favorite is My House is Stronger Than Your House.
Yes, that's a very popular one.
I like that one. It's got a flexing arm on it. Big flexing arm, says My House is Stronger Than Yours.
Yep.
BuildWithICF.com. And then we've got the pig.
Yes, the smart little piggy built with ICF.
Yeah. There's a little pig with the glasses on. Looks like a nerd, smarty pig.
Yeah, and we didn't put our logo on him. We changed it to the podcast logo because we want it to be something that our listeners can wear and also, be able to put their logo on and promote their business or put their website on. Yeah. So it just has the podcast, Build with ICF podcast on the nape, like on the neck, on the back. So, and then the design on the front. And then for the ladies, because, we all want to rep our ICF companies and everything as well. I have one. I'm a big Harley Quinn fan. And in one of the movies, she says a comment, and then I lost it. Oh,
sexy and bulletproof.
Sexy.
She was looking at a flak jacket and like a Kevlar bustier, and she says, "Sexy and bulletproof." Yeah. So we have that T-shirt, the sexy and bulletproof shirt. Yeah,
and you boys can wear it too, I'm sure. Well,
it's in a girl cut shirt. It's in pink. It's a little.
I can put it on any shirt.
Whatever you can pull off. I don't care. So no, we've got some cool stuff coming up. I think we're going to post. We'll have them for sale on the website too, and then
we just got to get our photo shoot done. That's the thing. I need my models, and they've been out stacking, so I haven't had my models in the warehouse.
Yeah, so we got to get some stuff up. But like I said, teaser. Feel free to start tagging because we will go back and I'll search the hashtag and I'll search people and I'll compile a list. So feel free to tag us in your own posts or, even just a picture of you listening on your phone or whatever it is or in your car and just shoot us a picture and tag us in the photo that you're listening to our podcast and we'll get that going. So,
all right. Well, thank you for listening, for being I can't think of my words today. I have been going too much.
I guess.
Thank you for being a listener. They'll just say that.
There you go.
And
we need to come up with what our fans are. We'll have to come up with some sort of name for
there you go.
Build ICF fans. But thanks for listening. We appreciate you guys. Thank you for your patience with us not being on there as much as we would like to be. But I promise we'll pick up the pace again. We're not going anywhere. Nobody needs to worry about us. We're just busy stacking blocks. So thank you, everybody. And we will talk to you next time.